If you're watching this, you're probably an adult that has gone through loneliness or seasons of feeling lonely. And you probably have wondered also kind of what to do in those seasons, what to do in those situations. Today, we're going to talk about loneliness. We're going to talk about solitude and isolation, some of the topics that are surrounding that, what the difference of those is, and how did transitioning out of college really help or not help with that situation. Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Anthony. I'm here with David Herring, my co-host. Not joined here by Josh today. He will be with us probably in another 2 weeks. But we're The Good Life, your practical guide to adulting. And we're jumping right into a topic of loneliness this week. Excited to have you here, David.
Yeah.
Looking good, man.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
you
dude.
as well.
Oh, do I not always look good?
Always.
Always. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, diving right in here, what is your experience with loneliness and where are you at today with loneliness? Why don't I just open it up, super broad, talk to me about where you're at.
I think in very brief, loneliness is a shared struggle amongst all of human society. And I think some of the most difficult things that loneliness allows you to wrestle with is a sense of connection, a sense of intimacy, an understanding of your purpose and where you fit in a community, in a family, in a friendship group, whatever that looks like. For me personally right now, I think navigating loneliness, that looks like, I think, always constantly trying to do self-betterment and improvement and growth, but then recognizing there's always this separation of you not hitting the mark or you not being able to meet standard or expectations, especially if it's set by society or someone else, especially a loved one or someone that you care about very much. So it really gets lonely and dark in those spaces. But I found that in the loneliness, you learn so much about also how to discover self-love and what it means to reflect and take a time to meditate for yourself.
Yeah. No, yeah, thanks for opening it up there.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty broad angle to take. Jumping into a little bit more of the specific aspects of this, how would you define like the difference between being lonely and just being alone? Because I think there's a clear kind of nuance to that. And, you know, being lonely obviously is, you know, we don't want to feel lonely. It's a negative, there's a negative connotation with that.
Right.
But then I think being alone, I think I would argue, isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you kind of go about defining the difference for you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, sit on that a little bit.
Yeah. I think the most convenient and easiest way that I can think about responding to this question would be when the difference between looking at being alone is you perhaps like or love yourself in that process of being by yourself and not surrounded with people. But the difference then now in comparison, when we look at being lonely, I think is almost disliking or hating yourself for being by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest distinctions is being alone almost carries more of a positive connotation, whilst you look at being lonely and almost find that that is where people carry more negativity. But that's what I see in that.
Yeah. Do you have, I think for me, loneliness and solitude and isolation are all like really big words, but for me, I think it's so important to have time alone.
Absolutely.
As a man, as a young person who is like excited about their future and, you know, wants to make the most of their day, I think loneliness is almost synonymous with like spending time in silence, also in reflection, in processing time, right? So for both of us, I think we both finished college like within the last 2 years, pretty much within the last year. And a lot of that ended up basically essentially what you think about, if you think about adulthood, is essentially shifting from college, which is a place where you're always surrounded by people, right? Whether you like it or not. to a place where like you're completely kind of more so isolated and everyone's going on their own ways of life. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've experienced that, as you've experienced that. And I'm curious to how that experience was for you, that transition outside of college. Because I know you, David, personally, that you've brought up ideas and situations where you're always like, man, college was such a good time. Like
Yeah.
I miss those days. Like those were the good old days. And then it's this post college of like, oh, this is real adulthood. This is like getting a job.
Yeah.
This is like all also really great parts of life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there's the social aspect that kind of is lacking in some senses, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, do you find that to be true for yourself?
Yeah. Lightly so. I think that I think in every single person's life, in some way or another, there's going to be a stage in which there's going to be a lot more, perhaps solitude,
Yeah.
or more isolation, or one of the different types of loneliness that people can experience is social, um, like loneliness.
She sells.
But
Little tongue
she
twister, yeah.
sells, she sells down by the seashore.
Yeah.
But I really like to think about that on loop is how active am I being able to engage with the social aspect of my life in the community or the people and friends that I have in my life. And if you don't have any friends, then that's okay. How well are you treating yourself? If you truthfully do not have a community or a friend or anyone to reach out and look to, a lot of it will be on yourself. So then now, for those people who are very independent or those who have a big deal of separation amongst society and the rest of people or groups, how do you then socialize and talk with yourself? And I think that's even a bigger battle. And what creates a deeper sense of loneliness is because maybe you feel only so connected, not with anyone else that surrounds you, but just yourself. And then you kind of lose track of that conversation or keeping accountability for yourself. And therefore, you feel almost disconnected from purpose. And I think that's the biggest thing where people are falling short in understanding where that loneliness and solitude and isolation difference lies.
Yeah.
How would you, Anthony, define isolation? How would you define solitude? And then how would you define loneliness? Because those are all very similar and close.
Yeah.
But how would you go about that?
I think the nuance between loneliness, solitude, and isolation is the way you respond to the situation you're in, whether or not you're around people or not. And to flesh that out a little bit, I think loneliness doesn't depend on whether you're around people or not, because I believe that you can feel lonely even in a room full of people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm sure you've experienced that before. Like
Uh-huh.
you're maybe you're at a party or you're like at a kickback and you're maybe more of an introvert like me.
Yeah.
Even though maybe it doesn't look like it. But I value my time alone, right?
Yeah.
That's where I draw energy from, right? And so part of that, I think, feeling lonely is this like this discrepancy between, even though I'm around people, I just don't feel connected to them. Maybe that's what it is, the connection that
Yeah.
you lack. I think solitude is an intentional isolation.
I like that.
I think if I were to use loneliness, if loneliness were to be how you see kind of your situation with other people, and if isolation were kind of a just purposely putting yourself aside in a negative way, I think solitude is purposely putting yourself aside in a positive way. I think that's how I would fork that road.
Nice.
I think to go into maybe isolation first, I think separating yourself from others in a maybe negative way kind of looks like post breakup, and you're trying to push away all your friends.
Right.
You're trying to just be by yourself, isolate yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think that doesn't result in the best case scenario for ourselves. Like
Yeah.
we end up doing and going through life alone without a lot of help, right? Because as we talked about in, I think it's episode, 3 or 4, friendships is so important. Who we surround ourselves is so important, right? They say like, show me your association and I'll show you your future, because who you associate with is going to be largely impactful to who you're going to become.
Yeah.
And so to go into the last part, I think solitude is an intentional setting yourself apart in a positive way, because I think that's you kind of taking yourself out of the picture and being able to do some of those things that we talked about, like reflect, like um, process through things on your own, and then later on being able to process it with others. I think is a really healthy route to go about it.
Yeah.
That's kind of in a nutshell how I would go about defining those three. And so I think the type of loneliness, or the word we're using here, is obviously going to be loneliness, because this is obviously the intentional isolation of yourself in kind of like a negative way, where you're continually in it for kind of some time.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're going to focus on today.
Yeah.
But going into like another question here, do you think there's seasons in life where like being alone is absolutely necessary for growth? Maybe you can go into that a little bit, and maybe I'm just curious to hear you out on like your perspective on, like, there's those moments where you choose to be lonely.
Absolutely. I most certainly agree that and think that there are going to be moments, many moments, and plentiful of seasons in which you have to be able to walk alone by yourself. And that is the only way in which you can actually learn to grow.
Hmm.
The reason I say that is because I think a lot of our life, you know, we start from somewhere, whether that's a family or if you didn't grow up in a family, it's you taking care of yourself. But what does that even look like? Whether it's self-care, meditation, and all of these techniques of self-care, or whether it's your family being able to provide a sense of security and all your physiological needs,
Mm-hmm.
that creates something that's safe. But the thing with where growth happens is when there almost isn't that understanding or that fulfillment of that security.
Mm.
And I think a lot of those times you're walking alone,
Mm.
you're walking by yourself, and you don't really get to see the bigger picture or the greater purpose of that very instance or circumstance of being alone
Mm.
until maybe after the experience. I never think about every single day what exactly is the thing that I'm experiencing right now and what do I call this? Although that is great to think in perspective, I mean, there's no way in which every single moment someone's thinking pinpoint this and that is going on right now.
Right.
Like that would just be too overstimulating and very way too analytical. It is
So you
possible.
think you could take it too far?
I think
Excuse me.
absolutely you can take it too far, but I think even though no matter where you're at in that measurement, whether it is less severe to very severe, there's going to be that learning process and growth that comes through you being by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important to understand,
Mm.
where are you getting that learning curve from? Is that going to be from
Mm.
isolation? Is it going to be from solitude? Or is it going to be from being lonely?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
there's been so many things, I think, from loneliness within itself that I've been able to recognize and see what is so valuable
Yeah.
about the things that we do in this very lifetime,
Yeah.
and what we continue to share
Yeah.
and bring about life.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
mean, I thank you for sharing that. That's really insightful, actually.
Mm.
I think why this is, I think, so important for even young adults, for graduates, people that are finishing up college, is that I think it's a shared experience, right? Where we are in college and we're constantly surrounded by people, like we talked about.
Hmm.
But then when you move out, it's just this such a quick kind of like zap in time where like you're like,
Mm.
where did everyone go?
Yeah.
It's like the rapture. Like you look
Yeah.
around and it's
Oh
like
no.
where is everyone?
Mm.
And I think in some ways it's a really scary
Yeah.
thought process, because all of a sudden you're kind of questioning some of the depth of your relationships that you have in your life.
Right.
I think in other ways you're also questioning whether or not those friends that are maybe moving out of state you're going to stay connected to.
Mm. Mm.
You're kind of questioning whether or not those relationships that you invested so much time into
Yeah.
are even going to pay you back
Yeah.
a dime,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think it's always we think about return on investment. Like,
Right.
how much are we getting out of those relationships that we poured ourselves into so much, right? As an
Mm,
RA, I'm
mm.
sure you've also
Yeah.
thought about that, about like these younger classmen, you putting these one-on-ones in, all these
Yes.
late nights. It's like,
Right.
what does that amount to
Right.
if you never see these people again, right?
Mm.
And I'm sure you thought about like, oh, mate, like, yes, you've planted those seeds in their life, and they're gonna grow into beautiful, sprouted, big sequoia trees,
I
right?
hope so.
The good ones, at least.
Yeah, yeah. I hope everyone.
Not naming names,
No.
but there's the bad beans too that
Yeah.
in the batch always that
Right.
you're a little more worried for, a little more concerned. And I know I have people in my life that I kind of, I guess, mentor over and look at in their life, and I'm like, there's things that we can change.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's things that we can improve on this. Yeah, how did your social life kind of change after college for you personally? Did you notice that kind of shift happen? And how did you kind of respond to that?
Yeah, social life absolutely decreased. It's
Get it
just
out of the bag.
it's just just blatantly
tanked.
clear,
Just tanked.
Absolutely took a very big dip.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things is because you're not surrounded and you're not within
Right.
that same environment and
Yeah.
atmosphere anymore.
Mhm.
You cultivate as much as you can the intentionality of what used to happen, but you're just not going to get the same because you're not given the same amount of population to work with.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not
by as many
surrounded once
people.
again
Yeah.
by all of those people. If whether you look at your college background as if you're living off campus and you're with a bunch of your guys or your girls, and you're living in a home or an apartment and you're pitching in, and then you guys are commuting to school, etc. Like that is community. That's like a family, right?
Mhm.
But then whether you're going to school and you're passing through and you're living in the dorms, or you're living in the apartments that are on campus and any on-campus housing and whatsoever,
Mhm.
that is so frequent. But
Mm.
when you're off on your own, you either go back to family because, once again, there's a sense of security and safety.
For sure.
There's a safety net.
Yeah.
Or you choose to become more independent and you walk away from, nesting with the family and what's secure, and you go out and quest. And in literature, we call that nesting and questing.
Yeah.
But I think I find that not just very appealing, but I find that very fascinating that people are willing to take that new opportunity of independence, no matter how difficult it might become. And in that process, it looks like, lonely in the social aspects. It looks lonely in the existential thought process of oneself,
Yeah.
or it looks lonely in the very emotional toil that one navigates.
I mean, yeah, and like, let me kind of tell you that experience is across the board.
Yeah.
Even I know as people talking of people that didn't move back home.
Mm.
I think some people that listening to this may be like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I went back into a community back at home.
Mm.
Well, I disagree with that. I think I strongly think that in my experience too, even talking to other people that did move back home,
Mm-hmm.
that those 4 years, those critical years that you spent in college,
Mm-hmm.
were so transformative that when you go back home into a place that you're familiar with, it is not completely the same. The people don't see you the same as you did 4 years ago. And I really hope they didn't, because you should be a changed person 4 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a good sign that there was some character development in that happening, right?
Yeah.
But I think with that being said, this is applicable to people that even move back home after college. It's like they're going back to maybe their home church or somewhere that they were going on to before.
Mm-hmm.
And they're experienced this sense of like, I don't really connect with you guys the same way I did 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go wonder. It's 4 years ago, and I think you also carry a lot of different experiences and you're a different person.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I think, how would you think it would be like if you went back home and you saw your parents and you're like, you started being yourself and you're like, they're like, who is this man?
Yeah.
Like, do we know him,
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think the longer you spend at home, sometimes you revert back to those old habits of who you used to be, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That old you.
That old you, the old Davis, the fetus Davis.
What you've grown out of,
What you're going out of, you're going back into.
Go back, and I strongly just don't like that idea a lot,
I can tell. That's why you're out here.
And that's why I'm out here, working and finding and building and searching network and growth opportunities. And I think that approach and mindset that you look at when you're emerging into adulthood or you're post-grad,
Yeah.
or you're doing grad school, or
Yeah.
currently still even in college. These are all applicable to you because, audience, you are still figuring out this life, each step within itself, and trying to find the sense of purpose that you're given. And there is going to be, once again, this topic that we're navigating, and that is of the loneliness that you're going to face. So once again, whether that's emotional, social, or existential, we have to remember, how do we take care of ourselves and how do we view what we walk into? Because I think with a sense of purpose and understanding that purpose, or knowing and searching for that, you break away from more of this loneliness. But the time
Yeah.
that you almost forget your purpose and walk away from what gives you meaning, you start to see and question, and confusion comes and frustration arises, and that is when you almost get the sense of loneliness that we're all talking about right here.
Yeah.
That is the shared experience that all of humanity faces.
So yeah, that was beautiful. Let me probe this to you. I'm sure you're on social media. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you're watching this, you're obviously on social media. I got you there. But talking about social media, I think there's this syndrome, I guess we can call it, called
What
FOMO.
syndrome? Oh.
And it's yeah, this four letter kind of acronym
Uh-huh.
um, that basically means like fear of missing out, right?
Okay.
And I think that I think it's a real thing. I
Mm.
think it's something that we all experience because I think it's rooted also in comparison.
Mm.
But I think to go into it, one U.S. study showed that a higher social media use actually correlated with the more perceived social isolation.
Yeah.
So to put that into more blunt terms, the more social media that one uses, they found to be also related to the more socially isolated they felt.
Mm.
Now let me paint that in even a different picture. How does that make sense for someone to be on a social media app, right? As the word implies, social media that's intended to connect people, maybe,
Mm.
and as a result of that, feel less connected than they did before using that app. Talk to me about what does that even mean? Maybe how does social media play a role in your current life and your current situation? Do you find it as a positive addition to your social life, or do you find that it's been a little bit more of the opposite case?
I think the one thing that comes on top of my mind is comparison, and how that creates, I think, even more loneliness.
Mm.
There's this quote, not sure whom by, but it reads, "Comparison is the thief of all joy."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is very important to think about and consider when we are navigating our lives and trying to especially wrestle with this topic, or this concept of loneliness that we all
Mm.
have to face.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that comes to my mind, me personally, navigating social media, yeah, I think there is that deeper sense of loneliness that arises because you, once again, have that sense of comparison, and you see how are other people doing in their lives and what other people's feeds look like, what they post on their stories, and it continuously goes through this narrative of, okay, they're living their life. It's so awesome. It's portrayed as beautiful and amazing, and just super cool, or very interesting and fascinating. And that draws in so much attention. But I feel as if you're a person that thinks about it that way, you are either very only focused on yourself, creating a sense of beauty, or you are trying to hide one of the most difficult things that everyone else is sharing in that experience, and that is loneliness too.
Mm.
We either mask it, or we genuinely are truthfully happy. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's a very black and white way to look at it. But considering the truth of what social media can do, I mean, I can only see it being, you know, an inner working of those two. And then if it's not, maybe there's some variance that goes in between. But I truly think it's whatever you see on social media either is the biggest mask of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to be the closest to authentic that you can get to sharing on a social media platform,
Mm-hmm.
without the barrier of obviously not being able to share your life in person, because obviously this is all digital.
Yes. I think so. a few things. I think what you said with the comparison is the thief of joy. I got to kind of look it up. It's actually by Theodore Roosevelt,
Okay, awesome.
the president himself.
Mm.
And I think we throw that kind of cliche out a lot. Like comparison is the thief of all joy.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I was looking up, a lot of people actually forget the flip side of it, which is that to combat it, one should actually focus on personal growth, on practicing gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
on celebrating their own successes and small wins,
Yes.
on learning how to be content.
Yes.
And we often just focus on like, oh, just stop comparing. Just stop it. Just stop doing that because it's not good for you because it leads you, it's the thief of all joy,
Mm.
right? But then what are you doing instead of that, right?
Yeah.
This message from the book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, I'm sure you've either heard or read it
Mm-hmm.
yourself, but it's this golden rule of habit building
Mm-hmm.
that states that you can't just get rid of a bad habit. You have to replace it with a good one.
Yeah.
And so what that looks like is if you're not going to compare, you have to replace that with you working on yourself,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what builds ultimate true confidence in who you are.
That's good.
Right? You got to prove to yourself that you're the man, like that you're the one who actually getting stuff done
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to do what you say you're going to do, right? I think at the end of the day, a lot of men, a lot of anyone, right, is feeling insecure. Maybe that's a topic that we can also go into, but this feeling that you're not good enough. And a lot of that stems from you just proving to yourself time and time again that you just haven't gotten things done that you said you will.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is, taking accountability for some of those things that we've always wanted to do,
Yeah.
grabbing it by the head and just like going on with it, and just going straight into it. But I love that you touched on kind of the idea of doom scrolling and just this that social media use isn't always maybe what it initially was intended for, but it can have these negative repercussions
Yeah.
for things that, yeah. Um, I think some statistics that really surprised me
Mm-hmm.
was that Harvard MCC did a report that 81% of lonely adults also reported anxiety or depression, um, and then versus 29% for less lonely people. So the lonelier you are, the more perceptible you are to actually developing anxiety and depression as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Yeah.
talked about this a little bit in Josh's episode 8. But it's just interesting to see kind of these ideas that float together. Obviously, a big topic we talk about a lot is mental health these days.
Right.
Right. Um, yeah. So I think going into another topic here, how do you feel like the disconnection in your life, like maybe not feeling like you matter enough, not feeling like you're understood? Um, in what ways do you think comparison kind of feeds into that isolation for you personally, if it does?
Ooh. Could you rephrase that question?
Yeah, like do you find yourself how about do you find yourself comparing yourself to other people nowadays? I think it's a pretty common experience.
Yeah.
And how do you typically go about practically like getting yourself out of that maybe rut or that thought process?
I think how everyone's running their own journey
Mm.
and everyone's taking care of their own life. I think at the end of the day, what's so important is recognizing all that you've got is all that you have. And
Whoa.
if you've got nothing, then that's what you've got.
Wow.
And I think we really have to see that is, when you're hurt, damaged, and broken, and you've got nothing to turn to, look at yourself in a mirror and say, man, you're still here. And that is what you have to be grateful for. And I don't even think about comparison. What I think about is if there's anything close to comparison, it's probably more about competition.
Okay.
And how am I competitive against the other people that are associated within the same like-mindedness that I have, in the same mentality that I have, that it's maybe not necessarily the same but similar, and that we're close with and head to head and clashing, because you only grow when you're challenged.
Mm.
And maybe that sounds like an absolute or a definitive statement, and maybe it is, but my point in saying that is it has to come to a direct point in which you acknowledge that if you don't get up because something is pushing you, then you have to recognize, okay, where are you learning, where are you growing?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I think loneliness is one of those things that it challenges you to recognize, okay, who are the people that actually care about you in your life? Loneliness challenges the thought of, okay, how it begs the questions of how adequate, how worthy, and how okay am I? We're mentioning mental health. How mentally stable am I? And, are you ready to engage with other people in a group? And I think, once again, if you answer those questions in either a positive or a negative light, that's where we get to see either a fuller, more true to definition sense of loneliness, or a truer and more better sense of definition with like solitude or isolation.
Yeah.
So really knowing that distinction between all those three, I think is super important to keep in your mind. But that's a really good question that you're asking.
That's good. Yeah, I think kind of in light of that, there's a lot of, I think I struggle with that too. I think living alone, it's gotten much better, but I think I remember initially when I was living alone, it really felt like isolating. Like I was like, why am I not? Because I went from living with college roommates, it's like some of my best friends, to all of a sudden renting and having to pay for where I wanted to live. And then on top of that, like not coming home to like friends and laughter in a warm place. Like it just felt cold. And we talked about this idea of like creating home and what that's like in our last 3 episodes ago, in episode I think 11. But yeah, I think this idea, I thought it was really interesting too. Going into this idea of like doing some research, there's actually like different kind of flavors or types of loneliness, if you will. I think you touched on a little bit of it, but there's essentially kind of the most common types of loneliness are social loneliness, which is kind of like a lack of a broader network in life. Emotional loneliness. So even though you might not be suffering from social loneliness, you might be still suffering from emotional loneliness, because emotional loneliness is the lack of close, intimate connection. So you can have a lot of superficial connections, but you might not have the intimate ones. Right. And then going into the last one, there's also existential loneliness. That's a mouthful. Which it's a big word for a big topic. But it's essentially the loneliness where you're questioning meaning in life. You're feeling disconnected from life itself. And so I kind of want to spend some time here talking about some of these, David, with you.
Wow.
And I would love to kind of hear you out on what type of these loneliness do you feel most frequently? And maybe can you remember like moments where you felt existential loneliness, or even social or emotional loneliness? And yeah, how, like, maybe just go into some of those, maybe a story or something with that.
Let me say that probably the one that I feel the most. I feel like that's probably one of the most difficult questions I've ever been asked.
Amen. That's why I'm asking you right now.
Man, I even had to get up out of my seat
we
over
don't
here.
ask
I'm like,
easy questions around here, right? I hope you know that.
Man,
I'm digging for the tougher stuff.
as you should. At the core, no fluff.
That's what we're about, with a little jokes sprinkled on top.
Yes, sir. A little humor in there.
But we're cooking. We're getting deep here. So
I like that.
If you need some time to actually process that, I invite you into that space. But
that's good.
I want you to answer that with the full intention of you processing through it with me.
I think.
So start with maybe.
No, yeah.
Well, okay. So start with maybe social loneliness. Do you feel like you have a broad network of friends?
Yeah, I think I have a broad network of friends. But if anything, we'll say for the past few years, social loneliness has probably been. We'll say that's been the biggest one, the biggest barrier.
So you didn't you didn't feel like you had a broad network.
Well, no. The thing is, I felt most certainly that I've had a broad network. It's just in that network, there's a difference in your circle of friends. And as that continues to kind of branch out, the closeness of the relationships, how intimate you share certain information, and how you act and behave amongst those friends, that really shows how close you are to those people. So as
Sure.
the further you get, they're not really friends. Now they're just maybe less of friends, and then maybe they're just acquaintances.
Uh-huh.
And then other times maybe they're just people that you see on a day-to-day basis,
Right.
or someone that you just acknowledge. I don't know what you call those people.
I call them hi friends. Like
Oh,
hi.
hi
And then
friends.
that's it.
Okay.
Like
Well, yeah, maybe hi
you
friends then.
pass them by in the hallway and
Yeah.
say, oh hey,
Hey,
but I don't actually
like
know
not
who-
even
who-
small talk too.
Yeah, like no small talk.
And
Just
there's like,
hey, what's up? How you doing? Fist bump.
and you always wonder why. It's like, where did we even meet? You know,
You just met in the hallways.
we just met in the hallways. Exactly.
Hey.
Oh yeah. In the restroom one day,
Hey,
it's like, hey, how's your day?
Everyone has those
No.
friends though. Like, hey, what's up? And then that's it.
And that's it, literally.
Yeah.
It's just interaction and then walk away.
Like or like maybe at most like, oh hey, how's work?
Yeah.
And then like, oh good.
Good.
All
Okay,
right,
bye.
nice.
I'll
Yeah,
see you.
It's like in passing.
And I'm like, wow, that is so, it's very quick. And it almost seems as if it's trying to be genuine and intentional. And maybe it is, but I feel like that is so shallow.
But you know what
You
the
know?
crazy thing is though?
What?
How many conversations do you think like that do you have in a day? Like it's probably a blaring amount for most people, right?
Yeah,
It's like, oh
yeah.
hey, like even to random people, which is good to do, but it's just
Right.
like so there's so many people that we just go through in life in passing,
Right.
and it's that split like 3-second conversation, like, oh hey, how you doing? Good.
Yeah.
Like
And
that's it. That's it.
And I'm not saying definitively it's shallow. It just sounds shallow, but I'm not saying that it truthfully is like definitively.
For sure.
I think that if you truly come off with that sense of genuinity, your authentic personality, or genuineness,
Yeah.
and authenticity.
Rose a linguist.
No,
Making
literally.
up words.
I mean, I'm actually.
Yeah, I thought it was a real word
alright.
for a second, and I was like, wait a minute. Let me
Yeah.
go into it though.
But going back to the point that I was making, social isolation has probably been like that. Social loneliness has probably been the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And the reason is because you recognize, oh wow, there's so many people that you know, whether that's whether you're going to school for college, or
Right.
whether that's you at work and you have a community, or whether that's a church, and it's like, wow, I know so many people, right?
Yeah.
But do you truly then understand all of those people?
Ooh, okay.
And I think that's a difference we have to be able to consider. The knowledge of a person and then the understanding of that person.
Yeah.
When you understand, you get closer to the heart. You're more intimate. You're more vulnerable. And I think that is what we're lacking, in which loneliness kind of seeps into your life, almost like a cracked black smoke that goes through all of your leaks. And it's just, it gives you no space to find that sense of purpose in which combats loneliness.
Yeah.
But when, in contrast, now you look at people who then do have those quality-filled relationships, those relationships that are intimate, that are vulnerable, and recognizing of another person's heart or another person's soul, it's like, man, right there, that is what you have to wake up to grab and take a piece of the pie, is when someone is able to see you for who you are, whether it's fully vulnerable or not, and just recognize, okay, I can understand the little bits of pieces that you gave me, or the pieces that you've given me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think oftentimes we're in relationships like that, maybe a little bit too often,
Yeah.
where it's just a high relationship, as we talked about, and there's no depth to it. And I think going into that second one, I think that's why we lack maybe not social loneliness, but maybe the one that we should spend more time with talking about here is emotional loneliness.
Right.
Like, so how many, close, intimate connections would you say, David, that you have in your current life right now?
I would say maybe like 5.
5 people that you can kind of talk to anything about.
Basically.
Like, okay.
Yeah. And I've realized.
And you know a lot of people.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know a lot of people, but I do know plenty of people. And I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, that's actually what I'm talking about is, you can know so many people and actually understand quite a bit of them and have something that you resonate and actually connect and feel through empathetically with them.
Yeah.
But then because they're not willing to almost mutually give the same amount of energy, in which in exchange it allows for both parties to be vulnerable, authentic, and sharing in that genuineness, then you're missing almost the bigger picture. And once again, you're lacking that purpose, which then allows you to feel more isolated, more lonely. And now we're talking about the emotional side. The
Yeah.
emotional aspect is, okay, there's a lot of this weight that you carry and you feel through via your senses, whether
Right.
that's through sight, taste, touch, smell, or
Mm.
hearing. And I think about, okay, what along that process am I not being able to fulfill? And because I can't fulfill it, I'm lacking in so many other ways that don't allow me to meet that betterment that I think we're trying to almost think about and achieve here.
Mm.
Because you've mentioned that, was it through that study, or was it through that person that self-betterment was something, and gratitude and
Yeah,
content?
Theodore Roosevelt,
Theodore
kind
Roosevelt,
of
okay.
the flip side of comparison is a thief of joy is
Right,
personal development and working on some of those things yourself, right?
right,
Of who you are. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I think that goes along that process of healing and growing
Mm-hmm.
apart from, your old ways.
Yeah.
And so I'm recognizing that, and I
Mm.
think that is one of my biggest encouragements for people to think about is, in order to look at loneliness as not something that is holding you down, but as something that you can use to fuel your journey and something
Mm.
almost you must embrace,
Yeah.
then I think closer we can find the picture of purpose and a sense of meaning through everyday actions.
Mm.
And that, I think, within itself will make you feel less lonely
Yeah.
and almost more grateful for the solitude. And I would hope that loneliness is wiped out clearly. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that will be the case and for a very long time. But
Mm.
I think the way that we can wrestle and combat with it
Yeah.
is being able to acknowledge that, take the steps closer, and being able to choose self-development and gratitude and being content
Mm.
and finding, I think, once again, the most important little things that you go through your life, the small wins you say,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to actually cherish and embrace that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I think the part, I think those three types of loneliness with social, emotional, and existential,
Yeah.
I think are all also very correlated with each other.
Mm.
I think you have to almost have a pretty broad network of friends. You have to have social health, social well-being in
Mm.
order to have emotional well-being.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to have a lot of friends to be able to select from those friends those few good ones that you can actually be intimate with.
Yeah.
And then in the intimacy of that relationship, that emotional wellness,
Mm.
you can then experience existential wellness. You can then have those conversations about life's bigger topics
Yeah.
with that intimate group of 5 friends that you have,
Mm.
right? And so I think one builds on the other, right? You can't have existential wellness if you don't have the emotional wellness, and you can't have that if you don't have the social wellness, right?
Mm. Mm.
Like I think there's such a strong tie in between all of those ideas that I think so many people are also stuck on that first level, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just don't have a lot of friends.
Right.
But I think having enough friends and enough of those really intimate ones is all you need.
Uh-huh.
Like, why are you going around looking for the next Joe in your life when you already have Schmo here that already can do what you like, be intimate with, right?
Who the heck is Schmo?
I mean, like whoever Joe Schmo in your life, but
Joe
I
and
mean,
Schmo,
yeah,
huh?
like I think my heart feels like I really want to speak on that is the idea that you can start right where you are right now.
Mm.
Like a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have enough friends," or "I'm not good at making friends." And maybe we can talk a little bit about that in another episode of like how to make friends,
Yeah.
or maybe how to win friends and influence people.
Oh, good book. Good book.
But yeah, I think that's yeah, you should read that by the way if you haven't.
Yes.
It really helps with the social loneliness part, because then you're just making friends with everyone like David.
What?
But there is also a downside of having too many friends too. I
Mm.
think of having to keep up with everything. Um, so, anyways, I think to go into this kind of like last piece before I get into some major hitters,
Yeah. Yeah.
these big points here. I think I want to ask you, how do you specifically take your relationships to a deeper level? Like maybe it's the intention that you walk into a relationship with.
Mm.
Maybe it's the kind of something you tell yourself in the morning. I don't know, like your morning routine. But
Yeah.
like, what do you feel like makes your relationships the ones that are intimate, those with those 5 people? What do you think sets those relationships apart from the ones that are just hey friends?
That's good. It is cutting through all of the fluff and pulling out at the core what needs to be addressed and asking those difficult
You
questions.
sound like a butcher, just like
You know,
cutting off the
cutting
fat and just
through,
going in.
you know, cut through the prime rib or, you know, T-bone. But I think that is the biggest thing is you can get closer with true friends
Yeah.
and those who are willing to commit to a sense of intimacy by answering and responding, but also asking those really good, difficult questions. And whether that's upfront or even in a very nice formulated or articulate way, being able to challenge and actually rise to that challenge.
Yeah.
I think simply that's kind of just like that pinpoint that I put in that. I think
Yeah.
that's what makes every single friendship that I have that is super quality filled or quality full just so much better, and maintaining that purpose is because we talk about the difficult things and we're able to actually respect each other for the differences and for the things that we may or may not disagree on, but also willing to search and understand where that person is coming from. Because once again, you may know that a friend might be homeless, or you might know that your friend might be hurt and, you know, broke and they need help financially, but you don't understand exactly what that looks like, how difficult it is. Maybe they have to pull from food stamps. Maybe they have to ask a friend for a meal. Or maybe they're, out of all embarrassment and shame, avoid plans that they used to have in college because they had that security, no longer has it anymore. This is just to think realistically what we deal with on a basis. And this can probably be a lot of college students. Everyone's story can look different. But I think it's really important to acknowledge and address, once again, that difference between what you think you know and what you truly do know, but then also how much more important it is to understand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I'll be short on this one. I think for me it's the intention that you go into relationships with, hands down. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's like, how are you walking into conversations?
Right.
I carry this kind of mindset where every time I walk through a doorway, I ask myself, what kind of influence do I want to have in this room? And I think about that for a split second. I walk in and I command attention. Like, I go in with that purpose of knowing that I want to send off this message, be portrayed in this way,
Yeah.
and I act like that.
Yeah.
Right. And same thing with like going into this podcast episode. I had to kind of like internalize this mindset of like, you know, loneliness is this topic. Like, I want to come in here and have a really great conversation. Like, I had to do that intentionally. I don't just wake up, show up on camera and be like, all right, guys, welcome to another episode of It's the Good Life. You're practical. Like, I do that, but I also have, like, there's a lot of prep work that goes into this, right? There's a lot of like time that we thought about these ideas.
Absolutely.
It's not just going into things like wishy-washy and then expecting a great outcome, right?
Yeah.
There's so much work behind a lot of these results, and that's what I think people miss to see. It's like, we're so short-sighted these days.
Yeah.
We only see the outcome, but we don't see what got us to that outcome.
Yes.
And so going into some, I think, like, kind of summarizing here as we're coming out to the end here, I think with some of these bigger topics, I think this idea of like quality over quantity when it comes to relationships.
Absolutely.
Right. I think we talked about like having a lot of, like, how many times were we surrounded by people and you still felt lonely, right? like let me just
way too many times.
I just ask you. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like, you don't have to answer.
Right.
But how many times have you been surrounded by people and still felt lonely, right? And I want to ask you, I want you to think about that as a listener. Like, why do you think that is? Is it because of the depth of your relationships? Is it because you just have a lot of hey friends and not a lot of, you know, deeper, intimate connections? You know, just something to think about, I think, in terms of our social health and social well-being, and in our battle with loneliness.
Right.
Maybe you're also going through these ideas and thought process of like, oh, I don't belong. Maybe you feel like invisible or unworthy of relationships. And then maybe it takes some self-work to develop that kind of self-confidence again.
Right.
Of, you know, knowing that you are worth something, and knowing that there's someone that values you more than anything else in life, and that you're chosen and that you're created for a purpose. right? So I think some of those things that we often forget so easily in the seasons of our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
Um, I think another idea is like let's let go of that stigma of loneliness being like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like I think it should be talked about. It should be something that should be openly expressed. And
Mm.
it's like I'm honestly feeling kind of lonely today.
Yeah.
Like that's okay.
Yeah.
Like tell me about it. Talk to me.
Right.
I want to be there for you. I want to be one of those intimate friends that you have.
Man, that's good.
Like let me like I think if we're all suffocating in this world that we're experiencing loneliness in a room full of people, like
Uh-huh.
how can we be a blessing to other people to be that intimate friend to ask them and be their be the solution to their emotional loneliness, right?
And if not the solution, something that encourages them to reach a solution.
Yeah.
And be present with them in that loneliness, because that is I think one of the biggest things that people that are lonely need is they need presence. They
Yes.
need an understanding that someone is present with them,
Yeah.
whether that is fulfilling emotionally,
Right.
whether that is fulfilling socially, someone to talk to, or whether that's on the existential part.
Yeah.
You're there physically with that person. It's just like, wow, when I think about existential to combat that loneliness, I think of the things of what can I be grateful for, and how content am I, and what are those things that I'm can actually content for.
Yeah.
But those are all great things that you're bringing up.
Yeah. I mean, I think in like we just talked about like
Yeah.
masculinity 2 episodes ago.
Right.
And or sorry, this is gonna be like 5 episodes ago now, because this episode 14 that we're filming, and that was episode 10. But yeah, this idea like like men don't talk about their feelings, or like you feel lonely, like
Yeah.
it's like what are you talking about? Men should be alone. They should be like
Oh man, so
but
toxic.
but I think as a man myself that I love the gym. I love doing that alone.
Right.
I have hobbies that I like to do.
Yeah.
But I still, at the end of the day, find it so fulfilling to talk to someone else, like a human being. Like, don't get me wrong, I like my time alone. I like my books. I like my room. I like
Yeah.
having that space to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But man, would life be so less colorful if I didn't have people like you in my life,
Oh man, appreciate
or
that.
people like Josh, or people that I can just have a darn good time with,
Yeah.
and just like be myself.
Yep.
Yep. Because what's the point of all this character development that you're doing alone when there's no one to really share that with?
Oh man, that's gonna be a short right there. Because that is so good. That is so good. That
Right?
reminds me of
like who are you showing up for?
that reminds me of this one I think this one idea of how I think I wanted to share just encouragement to all of the people who are kind. I want to share a sense of encouragement to all those people that recognize and care way too deeply of the emotions and feelings that other people have, and you want to be able to take care of them and take care of their burdens, and you want to ease them of their stress and all of the overstimulation that they might experience. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the people who care too much and love too deeply are often the ones that end up the loneliest. And we have to, as a whole of humanity, recognize that that is an issue. And if not humanity, start small.
Yeah.
Start within yourself, or start within your family, or a community, or a church, whatever that looks like. Church is community. But my point is, wherever you're at, once again, recognize what you have and make the best and pull out the maximization of what you can in that. And if that maximization looks like you only can do one step that day, and that's the best that you can do, then that's the maximization that you've got.
Yeah.
Don't think that you have to complete the entire world list and check off everything like world peace and affordable living housing.
Yeah. Clean water.
Clean water, etc. But rather, what is, once again, that small win that you can do?
Yeah,
if that means you waking up in the morning, then do that. Because some people, they won't wake up in the morning, and they take that for granted. And then some people, they don't brush their teeth because maybe they don't care so much about self-care, and they don't care about the day that they're going on.
Their self-image, their self-respect,
self-respect, personal development.
Yeah, I think the point that I draw from everything you said too is like there's seasons in life,
Right.
just like there are in the world.
Yeah.
There's winter, there's fall, there's spring, and there's summer. I might have said one more than once, but yeah. There's 4 seasons in life, and no matter what season you're in,
Yeah.
whether you're in a season of like moving jobs or moving out of your place, or
Yeah.
you know, breakup or the loss of a loved one,
Yeah.
loneliness, I can tell you, is going to intensify.
Right.
It's gonna get harder.
Yeah.
And but that's, you know, that's okay. Realize that, breathe through it,
Yeah.
and understand that this too will come to an end.
Mm.
You know, this too shall end.
Yep.
And you know, part of why I think we didn't get to touch too much on faith in this episode, but part of, I think, what makes me look forward to that day that Jesus that comes back,
Mm.
I think, which everyone is talking about, like, okay, it's happening, you know.
Yeah.
But part of this idea is like, man, this world, it's beautiful, but it also sucks.
Yeah. Honest.
Just my honest opinion, you know.
Right.
And I think like that needs to be said, and so much more do I look forward to that day that Jesus comes back, because of how much suffering and darkness there is in this place.
Man,
Right.
yeah.
And as much as I can draw out the beauty of life, and I do that every single day of my life.
Yeah.
Right. I tell you that. Like, there's beauty in every single moment, every little minuscule second, microsecond you can think of.
Yeah.
Whether I'm working out at the gym, hanging out with you, David, filming a podcast episode, experiencing the healing in a hospital setting of someone that has absolutely lost their loved one, but still can, you know, shed a smile across their face.
Yeah.
The heaviness of life
Right.
should not be discounted. But the beauty of it, I think, shows ever more so beautifully in those seasons of life,
Yeah.
in the darkness, in that depth. And so as we round it out here, how all these conversations about loneliness that we've been kind of talking about, what's your one word of advice for someone that is feeling loneliness right now? And you know, how are you going about healing from, in your case, of like your own loneliness, and what would you say to someone that is struggling with it?
I'm gonna sit in that for a little.
Yeah. If you will, I'll go first.
Go for it. Yeah.
I would love to share a quote. I think it's from F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Okay.
His author, highly respected, and he says, "The loneliest moment in someone's life is when they are watching their whole world fall apart, and all they can do is stare blankly." I just want to leave it there, because I think so much of the situations that we're in is a result of the circumstances that we accept.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we tell ourselves that it's okay, when, and that gives us permission to not do something about it. That infuriates me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you that much.
Right.
Like, I don't know if God put that in my personality trait, but it absolutely infuriates me when someone sees a problem in their life and they don't want to do anything about it.
Yes.
Like, I can't give you that intensity, that emotion to go and change your life for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can only want that as much as you want that for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm not the one telling you to brush your teeth. I'm not the one telling you to wash your face, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Pick yourself up by the bootstraps and just go at it. You know, that's not happening. You got to do that for yourself.
Right.
And yeah, that just be my 2 cents.
Wow. Man, that was like 2 cents of some change in there.
But take us away, David, as we come to the end here.
That's good. I'll also close in prayer.
Yeah, do it.
I think the last piece of advice and just the takeaway that I'd like to share as a key insight would be, for those that are battling with loneliness, don't run away from that. You know, turn and face that loneliness and find out what is making you lonely. And being able to find those good things in your life that bring you a sense of purpose, I think that's the biggest thing. Because that way you would feel a lot more happier, a lot more content, a lot more grateful about your life, that therefore loneliness no longer would be a part of the picture.
Yeah.
And it still might prosper, but we're not going to speak that to life. I think this conversation today is to acknowledge what loneliness and the truth of that reality looks like, but how we can, take steps to navigate that. But with all of that being said,
right.
thank you for listening to this episode, and let's close in prayer.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you so much for gathering both Anthony and I here today to speak over life and truth that you are, over this wonderful episode of loneliness, Lord Jesus, and how all of humanity and just how human society navigates, Lord Jesus. I pray for a sense of guidance and an open-mindedness as we continue to walk and wrestle through the difficulties of life. I pray that we open our mind to accept the differences and the hardships and the perseverance and resilience that is needed in order to pass these things that we face. Father God, I pray that we can find a sense of gratitude and thankfulness, contentment, as it is written in the word and the goodness of your love, to be grateful and to always have a sense of things that we look forward to and be grateful and find gratitude in that, Lord. I pray that over every single person that is listening and watching this podcast. And I pray, Father God, that we may share the blessings and the goodness of your love always in the avenues and be able to amplify that, Lord, in every small and little win and tiny space, and even in the losses that we acknowledge and find a sense of gratitude for that. So we thank you for this space. We thank you for this time, and we praise you all in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, David. Appreciate
Of
you.
course.
And yeah, that's going to be episode 14. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend if you felt like this was really helpful. I know loneliness is something that, sorry, let me double check if this camera's actually recording still. I know loneliness is something that is a universal experience that we all go through in life. And me, David, right here alongside with you guys in this journey of life.
Yeah.
And adulting's hard at the end of the day. But with some, I think, help and some friendships and connections, we can all get through it.
That's right.
And so, yeah, thank you so much for watching. It's going to be episode 14. Join us next week for a conversation pretty much about the expectations and reality of adulthood. Excited to get into that one. We'll see you guys next week. This is The Good Life, your practical guide to adulting. We'll see you guys next week. Love y'all.
All right. Yeah.